All right. How are we doing? We're going to keep rolling with this lesson using React Router using the address book tutorial from reactrouter.com. Again, if you want to follow along as you should, I post the link to the tutorial in the description so you have access to it. And again, I would like to reiterate that I'm not getting paid by React Router. They're not paying me. Uh, this is me kind of going over how it's as much learning how to use React Router as it is learning how to use tutorials that are online to learn how to code, if you will. So um, that's the purpose of this lesson. I can tell you right now, I'm not a React Router expert. I've done this tutorial a handful of times, and yet still, I would not consider myself an expert at this. I am somebody who enjoys coding very much. I enjoy learning, and this field gives me an opportunity to learn, keeps me humble, and so that's the purpose of me doing these lessons. With this particular lesson right here. So where we left off is with mutation. The last thing that we were able to do is we can come over here. I can click new, and I can edit here. Right, I can add a name, add a Twitter handle, and go get my cool looking image again. Oh, where's my image? Well, we'll see what's up with that. Anyways, we see that I can add information here. Let me see. That's probably gonna bother me. Let me see what happens if I save this. There we go. All right, cool. So we can see that we can add information here. We can edit a contact. Okay, and that's cool. That's what we want to do. So let's move forward and let's see what's going on. I think where we left off is mutation discussion. And it says here, it worked, which it did, but we don't have an idea what's going on because we haven't really discussed that yet. So let's dig in a bit. Open up edit contact.tsx and look at the form elements because I know that, again, I copied and pasted it for the sake of brevity because I didn't want to focus on writing all this stuff down as opposed to like actually going over the tutorial. But again, and I stated this before, when I am working through tutorials, I will write line by line the code so I can understand what's happening. And as I'm writing the code line for line, I'm developing an understanding of how it's working, what pieces go where. So I strongly encourage you to do that. If you have to pause the video to go and type everything out and then come back to the lesson, by all means do that because I'm a handsome fellow, but this face is not going to teach you how to code. I guarantee you it's not. I'm not that handsome. But it takes practice and you can do it. Okay, I'm letting you know that you can do it and you should do it. It just takes practice. Okay, so anyway, let's look and see what we have here. Notice how they each have a name. So we look at the inputs, right? So here's my input, and I'm looking at this name attribute right here. And each one of my inputs has a name attribute. And I tell you right now, in full disclosure, I would write this differently if I were doing this on my own. Uh, However, this is how they chose to write it, and I understand why they did a certain way because certain things that they are focused on. But however, I would write it differently because there's a way of coding, not the way. Very little the ways, but there's several a ways. But we look here at each one of our inputs, we have this name attribute, and that's what we're looking at. And it says here, without JavaScript, when a form is submitted, the browser will create form data and set it as the body of the request when it sends it to the server. As mentioned before, React Router prevents that and emulates the browser by sending the request to your action function with fetch instead including the form data. Each field in the form is accessible with form data.get name. For example, given the input field from above, you could access the first and last names like this. And you can see here, we could say const form data, await request.form data, and then const form first name is form data.get first name. So this is using the, I believe it's map, which is map is a way of caching in. It's a capital M map. Okay, so the object map, as opposed to like the method map, which goes on arrays. This map object allows you to store key value pairs in a nice, clean way, and it is used for like caching data. So we could collect a first name, last name, etc. We collect this information and set up as keys, and then match the values with the keys. Since we have a handful of form fields, we use object.fromEntries to collect them all into an object, which is exactly what our update contact function wants. Okay, and so let's look at edit a contact again. And where is it? Right here, this const updates gets object.fromEntries form data. So it collects that object, well, that form, it collects form data rather with those name. It matches the name and value, and then stores it. Creates this object that we assign the name updates. Aside from the action function, none of these APIs we're discussing are provided by React Router. Request.form data, object.fromEntries are all provided by the web platform. After we finish the action, note the redirect at the end. And we're saying return redirect contacts parentheses contact ID. Action and loader functions can both return a response. Makes sense since they received a request. The redirect helper just makes it easier to return a response that tells the app to change locations. Without client-side routing, if a server redirected after a post request, the new page will fetch the latest data and render. So in other words, the server will redirect to a post request, which would then create a new page, and it would fetch the data and then render it based on the new page. As we learned before, React Router emulates this model and automatically revalidates the data on the page after the action call. That's why the sidebar automatically updates when we save the form. The extra revalidation code doesn't exist without client-side routing, so it doesn't need to exist with client-side routing in React Route either. One last thing, without JavaScript, the redirect would be a normal redirect. However, with JavaScript, it's a client-side redirect, so the user doesn't lose client state like scroll positions or component state, and that's very useful. That's good information to know, because the user, we don't like to lose our place in particular. Like we're scrolling down a page. If there's a client-side redirect, we don't want to lose that place where we are, because then we got to scroll all the way down to find the location that we were in. No one likes that. So that's good information to know. All right. So now let's redirect new records to the edit page. Now that we know how to redirect, let's update the action that creates new context to redirect the edit page. So redirect the new records edit page. Speaking of new records, FYI, like, share, comment, post, get the numbers up, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm going to do these videos, I would like to um, capitalize on it by going and buying new records. I love going and getting new records. So it'd be nice to have like some little a record allowance just off of YouTube. You know, I'm telling the truth. So just FYI. Anyways, let's get back into this. Redirect to the new records edit page. So we need to go to root.tsx and add this redirect import. Root.tsx, where are you? You're over here. And so we need to add, we're just adding redirect. Add it right here. Okay. And then let's see. Yeah, all that is being imported from React Router. All right. And then we need to add that in the action, our async function action. So instead of returning contact, we're going to return this redirect. And that redirect is going to go to contacts slash, I believe that's a $ curly brace contact ID. Yep, I'm going to pass that in into our string template literal. Was it contact.id? And then slash, I believe it's edit. Yep. So we remove contacts, the destructured contacts, and then we're passing it. We're going to return this redirect contact slash contact ID slash edit. Now, when we click new, we should end up on the edit page. Okay, so now when I come here and I click new, what should happen here, instead of it just loading up the contact here, it should load up the edit page. Where am I? I don't see my name. Let's see, click new, and there you see no name, and then also it takes me to the edit page. Oh, there I am right there. I was about to get upset. I'm like, where am I? So cool. So now it doesn't, I don't have to just click on no name here. I get it redirects my component right here to the form, which is cool. You know, that's, I like this. As far as, you know, being a user, it's one less step that I have to do to get somewhere where I'm trying to be. So that's cool. So, you know, I can come over here and, you know, we can add, I'm not going to add anybody there. But see, now we can, now the form pops up automatically. That's cool. And let's look at this, active link styling. We haven't talked much about styling with this, I guess because that's not the focus, but we can do some stuff here. Now that we have a bunch of records, it's not clear which one we're looking at in the sidebar. We can use navlink to fix this. This is a navlink component. And so we're going to replace the link component with navlink in the sidebar. So let's go to sidebar. And you see we've already imported form, link, and outlet. We need to add navlink here. So let's come over here and I'm just going to add navlink. Don't forget your comma afterwards. Okay. And then what we're going to do is where we see our link component inside of the LI, right here. I think that's the only place where it's being changed. Yep. Instead of using link here, we use navlink. Oh. Okay. And everything else should be the same. Is that the right one? Did I put it in the right place? Let's see. Wait, inside bar. In the UL. Key contact ID. Nav link. Okay, I guess I suppose we need to add this bit of code. Okay, so let's type this up. So we're gonna add this. So nav link. I'm gonna keep all that right there. And the class name. Class name is a couple things. Is active, is pending. So it looks like this is a function here. And say, hey, is active. Looks like a ternary right here. Saying if active, then it's going to be active. Else is pending. And if it is pending, oh, I'm messing this up. Let me see. Oh, it's pending. That needs to be a question mark right here. Matter of fact, I put that on this line. Else empty string. And then there we go right there. So basically, what it looks like it's doing right here is with this nav link, we're adding a class to it, and we're passing in if it's active or if it's pending as an argument. And then we're writing this ternary that says, hey, if is active is true, then the class name would be active. Else, if is pending is true, then the class will be pending. Else, we'll just have an empty string, so there won't be anything there. Okay. And we can see right here, another way of passing a function to class name. I love that about React, that we can do that. We can break into our JSX and write functions. Although again, I would probably what I would prefer doing is I would prefer, and this is just me, I would want to write the function above my component. Um, say, for example, I'd want to call it, check is pending. I'll show you what it would look like. I would come here and say, const check is pending, or check is active. Okay, and then I will pass in is active and is pending. I will pass this in right here, and then write all that code here just like that. And in the class name inside of the curly braces here, what I would do instead is I would run this function. So I would run this function here inside, just like what we did. And I would return whatever this is, the result of it, and then write it up there, and then actually write the function here instead of having taking up all these lines right in this ternary. I would just call the function inside of the class name. It'll work the exact same way, and that way it's a little bit cleaner. And again, that's what I would do. But at any rate, it works. And so you can see here we have this bar that indicates which who selected. So that's cool. Just a little bit of styling. All right. Let's get into this global pending UI, and then we'll pause the video here, make a new one. We can get finished with this pretty soon. Global pending UI. As the user navigates the app, React Router will leave the old page up as data is loading for the next page. You may have noticed the app feels a little unresponsive as you click between the lists, and it does. Let's provide the user with some feedback so the app doesn't feel unresponsive. React Router is managing all the state behind the scenes and reveals the pieces you need to build dynamic web apps. In this case, we'll use the use navigation hook. So let's look at that. Use navigation hook. It is a React Router hook. You can read the docs React Router to look at all the different hooks that they have. I love React hooks are so much better than they updated it. I mean, I can't tell you if you wrote anything in React previous to, I believe it was version 16, I believe that's it, version 15 or 16, and we had to use class-based components, and then we had to constructor and super, and then we had to bind our data. It was very complex. I mean, I was getting it, I was learning it, but it was also complex. And then component did mount, component did unmount, and all this other stuff that we had to do. React hooks made my life much easier. Anyways, we're going to use this use navigation hook. So inside the sidebar, we're going to add that use navigation. Well, here we are on sidebar. Going to add that right here, I suppose, after outlet. Yep. So adding use navigation. Cool. And then we're going to instantiate it right in here after we destructure loader data and get context. So right here, before the return, I'm going to say const navigation is going to get an instantiation of use navigation. Don't forget your parentheses because this means that we are instantiating this method here. And then let's see, in the return, let's see, right above the outlet. So let's see. So right here, this div detail, I suppose that's it. Uh, yeah, this div with the ID of detail, this one here. Down at the very, very bottom, we're going to add this class name. Let's put this on separate lines so it looks cleaner and more readable. So class name, and we're going to do, looks like another ternary right here. We're going to check the state of navigation here and say if it's loading, if it equals loading, then loading, otherwise just an empty string. So we're adding a class here, and again, we're checking for navigation state. So I'll put it on separate lines, navigation dot state. If it is equal to, we say loading, if the state is equal to loading, then what do we do? Then we'll say loading right here, else empty string. And that looks like it. And so what's happening here? So use navigation returns the current navigation state. It can be one of idle, loading, or submitting. In our case, we add a loading class to the main part of the app if we're not idle. The CSS then adds a nice fade after a short delay to avoid flickering the UI for fast loads. You can do anything you want though, like show a spinner or loading bar across the top. So if I come here and I click on it, you can see that there's a bit of a fade. That's nice. I'm still disappointed about that Michael Jackson. I mean, he's probably a great guy, but it's not, it's not Michael Jackson. Come on, man. I mean, it is, but you know what I mean. Michael Joseph Jackson, greatest of all time. So there we go. Nice. So we're going to stop this video right here. Let you take a break. Please take a break if you need to. Don't ever just try to go through coding nonstop. Your brain will fry. From speaking from experience. Okay, so you always want to give yourself a break, if you will. So let's do that. Again, go back and check your syntax, check your spelling if it's not working. If any of this isn't working, yeah, you want to go back and check it to make sure that everything is functioning and flowing properly. And we will continue this lesson. Next thing we're going to work on is deleting the records.